Hey, we're back. CineFiles here. Yeah, I know. It's just been. We've actually been taping a bunch of things in succession. We've been too lazy to change up the set. We're just leaving things the way it is. We even got some extra caffeine to kind of refuel our system.
Caffeine. I got more water.
We just discussed a very depressing subject. No, not the state of our economy and enough whether or not enough people are insured, but we went on about the Saturday Night Live spinoffs, the big screen spinoffs, which was a very depressing subject to get into.
Jesus, it wasn't that bad.
But we're not talking about that anymore. We're done. Today we're gonna our topic is.
Is it Michael Jackson movies?
Oh jeez, shut up. Today we're going to focus on Richard Pryor. Richard Pryor, the great iconic stand-up comedian / actor, had such a varied career, both in stand-up and in film. Before we get into that, let's introduce our co-hosts. We have Andre Joseph. We have Jeff Galashaw.
Hey.
And this is Andre's topic. He suggested this, so I'm going to turn it over to him.
The guy crossed boundaries. He pushed the envelope in ways nobody in America had ever seen before. His overuse of foul language, the use of the N-word, the stories he brought, the pain that he felt in his real life that he brought to the stage, and how he revolutionized comedy as we know it. While some of his films don't translate as well, compared to the stand-up work, I think, especially in the earlier films, he does have a message in the performances that he gives about, Black America being held down, or even just being the everyman working guy who is being screwed over by the system.
He also had a very angrier kind of take with comedy. His contemporary was someone like Bill Cosby, who had a different approach to comedy. Mm-hmm. Some might say safer, but no less subversive. I mean, Bill Cosby stuff was brilliant in its own way. But, it could be family friendly, right?
Well,
whereas Richard Pryor...
He started off family friendly, middle of the road, and then, took a break and wanted to be more real and talk about subjects that actually touched him in his life. And that's when he had more of the angrier persona of talking about things that were happening in his life and in Black America.
But you had this period where, African-American comedians, stand-up comedians were becoming very popular. Like, Red Fox was really popular.
Yeah.
Right?
Gregory.
Yes. Dick Gregory, to a certain extent.
Godfrey Cambridge.
Yeah, Godfrey Cambridge. But Rudy Ray Moore.
Yeah.
There's like this whole thing. And Richard Pryor was a part of that scene, so to speak. He did a couple of films in the mid to late 60s. He did a film called The Busybodies. Have you seen it?
No.
And Uncle Tom's Fairy Tales.
Never even heard of that one.
I've heard of it. I've never seen
I don't know. I've never heard of these either.
No! Uncle Tom's Fairy Tales, I believe, is the movie he tried to get financed, and at the time he was so under the influence that he never finished the film. And
it was directed by Penelope Spheris.
That's the film I'm talking about.
1968, and it starred Richard Pryor.
But was it ever released?
Well, is it the only known negative of this film was said to have been shredded by Pryor after disagreement with his wife at the time.
Haha! Read the biography.
So there you go. All right. See, I had to look it up. Well, you read the biography. I still had to look it up for you.
Well, you didn't ask.
Thank you.
I said, give me names. If you give me names.
All right. And then the next one was, then he did a film called A Busybody, which I know nothing about. And then he did Wild in the Streets. And Wild in the Streets is a really interesting movie. Yeah, his first known film. It's a really interesting movie because it's part of the counterculture movement, and it deals with like an alternate reality where
everybody over 30 years old is sent into a concentration camp after a rock star gets to be voted president by lowering the voting age. And Richard Pryor is part of his crew. He's supposed to be a black militant leader who's on his kind of payroll or crew.
Right. And he's solid in it.
Well, it's not. It's more of a smaller supporting role. It's not really major.
It's a co-starring role. I mean,
but it didn't feel like he was in it that much. And
I don't know. I tend to disagree with that. I think he's in it more than. But there's a bunch of these films that came out around the time that was young people take over America kind of thing. Anyway, after that, I don't know. He did a bunch of films that I'd never heard of when I tried to look this up. Some of them look like he might have done like
Dynamite Chicken.
Right, and there was like a sketch comedy movie he was in. Like everyone was doing like a sketch comedy movie.
I didn't see that one.
So the next big significant film, high profile film he might have done might have been Lady Sings the Blues. Right.
He was a piano man.
Yes, supporting role. I saw that film.
It's a small supporting part. He doesn't really do anything in it. I'm just quoting you from Wild.
Hey, that is Wild in the Streets. Here, he had a significant role.
It was a significant role.
It's a loose. Is it a loose or is it actual Billie Holiday?
It's about she's Billie Holiday.
Okay.
Diana Ross is playing Billie Holiday. And it has a great cast.
Billy D. Williams.
Billy D. Williams.
It's a Motown movie.
It's a Motown movie, and it's a solid film. She's really good in it.
And did Barry Gordy actually direct this one also?
He produced it.
Okay.
Sidney Furie directed.
Okay.
Sidney Furie directed, who did a lot of stuff.
Okay.
For that during that period of time, he did the hit. So, Lady Sings the Blues. This is the next film.
And notice none of these are comedies that we're talking about.
Right.
These are
and this is a pattern we're going to see that. I think that by the time Richard Pryor got after Silver Streak, right? That's when he started to do nothing but comedic parts from that point on. Because up to that point, I mean, he did the occasional comedic role, but he was doing a lot of drama. Blue Collar. Blue Collar was fantastic. Blue Collar was fantastic.
Even the Mac.
Paul Schrader. The Mac.
Is
The Mac. He's very good in the Mac. We kind of discussed that in our blaxploitation episode that we did with our brunch of the CineFiles, but the Mac is a solid film, and he's in that. He's good in that. But yeah, he was doing like a lot of, his characters were quirky in themselves. Blue Collar, he's fantastic in Blue Collar.
Yes, a film where there was a lot of behind-the-scenes problems with everybody.
Well, do tell our audience. Come on, this is the kind of
Richard Pryor did not get along with Harvey Keitel, so supposedly when they were throwing fists in that fight scene towards the end, it was real. Richard Pryor did not get along with Paul Schrader because he felt like, he was basically playing a sellout, but that is the way the role was written, too.
He pulled a gun on Schrader, and Schrader almost wanted to quit Hollywood.
See?
Blue Collar or later on?
On Blue Collar.
On Blue Collar. Richard Pryor didn't even get along with Yaphet Kotto. So it's just like the film kind of uses kind of that tension between the characters, because essentially they start out the film, all together, friends, and then as the film goes, they slowly start to separate, and it builds up the tension as the film goes along.
And there's humor to it, but it's very ironic because of the theme of these guys, these blue-collar factory workers being held down by their bosses. I mean, there's that one scene where he has like the insurance guy come to his house because he's trying to crack down on him, so he gets his neighbor's kids to come next door to pretend like, oh yeah, there's Stevie Wonder Jr., there's this kid,
and this is one of also before he always had the mustache. This is when he was
clean shaven.
It's also Schrader's, next to Light Sleeper, maybe his least sensationalistic film in a way. And Pryor was doing a lot of stuff. He was also making a lot of appearances, like just basic appearance in movies,
Car
Wash. He did have that appearance in Wattstax.
Yeah.
Yes.
Right.
Where he would break up, the musical performances. They'd show him talking at a club or a bar with everybody, and just doing social commentary, but also comedy.
Now we have to sort of put this into context. Richard Pryor had issues. He was a drug addict, and he never gained control over that addiction.
It was more like
even the post-freebasing accident.
He was self-destructive, basically.
Right. And it's genuinely he wasn't. I saw that documentary. It was recently on Showtime or HBO.
Yes.
Yeah.
And he wasn't actually a very nice person either.
No, he abused viciously all his wives and girlfriends. And they all came back because then he, play up more the whole, I'm sorry, this is how it was brung up, it's also in a biography written about him, because I read that prior to this show.
The concert he agreed to do for Lily Tomlin was pro-gay rights kind of concert.
Yeah, and he basically... He didn't like the comparison of the civil rights movement to, I guess, the gay movement at the time, trying to seek equal rights. So when they started to boo him for, speaking his mind, so that's when he basically started cursing out the crowd, calling them, faggots and all that. You know, it was essentially, he saw it as he was doing a favor for somebody who was very close to him, and, you know, this crowd turned on him because he was speaking his mind, and it was all supposed to be about equality.
Well, amusingly, he was also tapped to host the Oscars. And an Oscars telecast that was produced and directed by William Friedkin. And it was all William Friedkin's doing. And man, I would love to see footage of that.